After 3 years of living overseas full time, do I regret it? Absolutely not. But there are a few things that I really do miss from back home, and a lot of things that I don't miss at all. And in this video, let's break it down. And if you guys are new to the channel, I'm Eric with Foreign Option, and I've been traveling overseas since 2019, and then I had to shut it down for a couple years because of COVID. And then actually used COVID, I used my time quite wisely and planned it all out and relaunched in 2022. And I've been living overseas full time since 2022. Been to 30 countries in that time. Most of those countries I spent a significant amount of time in. And I've spent a month or longer in Kenya, Poland, Hungary, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, and Colombia. And a whole bunch of other countries. Anytime you're in a country less than a month, it's kind of like you're in vacation mode. But my whole goal with Foreign Option is to help other guys get on the path of living overseas, becoming an expat, getting some geographically independent income to be able to work online or work overseas, or help older guys maybe retire early once they realize, how the cost of living advantage is much lower overseas. But the first thing that I really love about being overseas is being outside of the U.S. news cycle. And regardless of whatever political spectrum you're on, I like, as they say, it's the two wings of the same vulture, and I truly believe that, especially in regards to the news cycle. And once you get out of that, it's like, it's almost like you detox when you're overseas from all that fear mongering. And that's really what those news channels are, whether it's CNN or Fox or MSNBC or, any of them. They're all selling fear because fear sells. And, if they can make you scared, they've got your attention. And if they got your attention, you're going to watch longer. And you're eventually going to watch those advertisements that they have on there, which also sell fear. And that's the beauty about being overseas, is like, I'm not all tied into that. Sometimes I get into those rabbit holes on YouTube, but it's almost like I'm watching while I'm detached. And it's like I want to make a bag of popcorn and watch it almost like a Netflix series. And in foreign politics, whenever I'm in other countries, I'm just a guest. So it's really none of my business. I don't really get involved in political discussions at all. And just my well-being, especially my mental mindset has benefited a whole lot from that. And the next really awesome thing that I love about living overseas is the dating. And I like to say, the grass is greener on the other side. And if you ask most guys, I think if you ask them, why do you want to go and live overseas? Why do you want to leave the US? Most guys, down deep at their core, it's because of the better opportunities to date, or whether that's play the field or find a long-term partner. And I can vouch, truly, it is way better. And I don't hate Western or American women. Look, I've got a grandmother, a mother, I've got nieces. They're all American women, right? But I can't help but shy away from my own experience, especially in the dating market in the U.S. And my experience is that I felt completely invisible. And I followed that path of what everybody told me to do. Was like, I got educated, and then I started making good money and follow those kind of responsible decisions you're supposed to make in your 20s. And the women didn't show up. And what I kind of noticed by watching is they kind of, they have broken pickers. They chase a different type of guy, and now they want to cycle back around and maybe try to date me. I'm in my late 30s, and it's too late. I've already moved abroad and enjoying my lifestyle out here, and I don't want to go back to the US and date. And I don't say that vengefully or out of spite. It's just what's happened in my experience. And I've had a few people ask me, Eric, why haven't you settled down abroad? And my answer is easy. Actually, dating was a priority. It wasn't the highest priority of going overseas, but I've always said I want to go and travel the world. I want to go and see the world and these bucket list type things. And I've been able to do that, and I've done most of my traveling solo. And let's face it, the reason why there aren't a ton of more guys out here traveling, living, dating internationally is because of the finances. That's why I put together a free guide for you guys, 7 financial paths to traveling the world and living overseas. You can download it for free. Link in the description. And it's really caused me to grow in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise if I was traveling with a woman the entire time. Because it happens to a lot of guys is they pair up and they stay in that little bubble. You get almost codependent on each other as you're traveling, and it limits you from meeting a lot of people. It can. So I've been able to visit 30 countries and do things like, go see the pyramids and go on a safari in Africa and go to Angkor Wat in Cambodia. And the other reason is, it's quite expensive to travel and support someone else while you're doing that. Kind of doubles your expenses in many ways. So I'm just not in a position to do that yet. Which leads me to the next thing, though, is a lower cost of living overseas. And that is probably the most glaring reason. It's that I feel like my quality of life has gone up while my costs have gone down. And that's the miracle about that I tell people on living abroad. It's like, everything's cheaper. I frequently pay about $500 or $600 in rent. Sometimes I pay a little bit more if I want to kind of treat myself. But, back in 2015, my apartment in South Carolina was $1,250. And I checked recently, and that same apartment's going for over $2,000 a month, which to me is just unfathomable. And I'm frequently eating for $3 or $4 a meal. And I don't even need a car, which is nice. Last time I was in the US, I actually sold my car. I was holding it back there in case, when I come back, if I need my car. But still having to pay insurance on it, which was over $100 a month. And I finally just sold it, took the cash. And that was really freeing, not needing a car. And I don't need a car while I'm abroad because a lot of the cities that I frequent, have train systems. The Ubers are really cheap. Sometimes I rent a motorbike to drive around. And all these things are very affordable. Another cool thing, this is just kind of me personally, but most of my friends when I'm overseas are older expats because usually those are the type of guys that have some type of pension or Social Security or VA or disability or something like that gives them reoccurring monthly income to live abroad. It doesn't matter where they live. There aren't that many actually younger guys my age. I'm trying to help more guys get into that. I think digital nomadism was becoming a thing, but a lot of companies have kind of reeled that back in where they want people to actually be in the office. But most of my friends are older expats, and I've always been like that since I was a little kid. I enjoy being an uncle and playing with my brother's kids and being a good uncle, throwing the football around. And I like hanging around with older guys that are almost grandpa figures. And don't set this in stone, but a little less so hanging out with people my own age, because I've always felt that a lot of people my own age just want to go out to the club and the bars and party and live those type of lifestyles, when I'm like an early bird. I love being in the 5 a.m. club. And that actually really leads me to what I miss the most about being overseas, though. Kind of the downsides is, the number one reason obviously is being able to easily visit my friends and family, and especially harder when you're out in Asia, because it's such a bear getting back home to the United States from Asia. That flight and the jet lag and the time zone switch, it's not an easy thing to do. And that's why a lot of guys out in North America don't make it to Asia. They go down to South America. It's because, man, you can't just come out to Asia for like a week or two vacation. You got to go down to the Caribbean or South America. There's no point in coming to Asia if you're going to do anything less than a month. So I really miss easily being able to see all those friends and family. And that's why I try to time my visits back home for like a month or longer. Maybe I do Thanksgiving and Christmas, or if there's a couple other birthdays or holidays in a row, I'll kind of batch those into one. But the other thing is, though, last time I went home, I'm always going to make my rounds and see the people that I care about. And some of those friends naturally they just grow apart a little bit. And I remember I visited a friend, and I'm catching up with him. And after 2 hours, we had pretty much caught up. And it's kind of like, well, what else do you want to talk about? And he just said, well, hey man, thanks for stopping by, but see you next year, type of thing. And that was it. So maybe next time we can do that over the phone, and every other time we can kind of meet up. But the next big thing I miss is I'm a big sports guy, and I love NFL football and college football and tennis, UFC, and those type of things. And when I'm out in Asia, it really sucks watching football at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. And I've done that, but it messes up your sleep cycle really bad. Or else you just start to skip them and miss the good games and watch the highlights. And man, that's no much fun. So I really miss hanging around on a Saturday and Sunday and watching football. Another thing I really miss is I grew up in South Carolina, and I think South Carolina's got amazingly beautiful weather because it has 4 distinct seasons. It's got a reasonably cold winter, a pretty hot summer, and then a beautiful spring and a beautiful fall. And in most countries, in South America and Asia, I miss out on those spring and fall seasons, which are really my favorite. Man, I miss October and I miss April, right, in South Carolina. And a lot of countries that I'm in only have one season, or if they have two, it's like it'll be a hot season and then a hot and wet season, right? I miss that kind of chill briskness. And I got a buddy that is from Canada, and he's like, I don't miss the cold at all. And I know I don't miss the snow, right? But I do miss the kind of chilly weather. So overall, guys, I am so thrilled and happy to be living overseas. I wouldn't trade it. There are a few downsides, but I think the pros heavily outweigh the cons. I don't think living overseas is for everybody, but I do really encourage you guys. I'm building this channel around the mission of helping other guys get on the path of living overseas and at least try it. Whether that's, temporary on and off. I've seen a lot of different ways to do it. A lot of guys come out for 3 months and then go back home for 3 months. Kind of just alternate like that, or make the leap full time. There's a lot of options at your disposal, and that's really the purpose of this channel. Okay?
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.